Om. May Brahman protect us. May he guide us. May he give us strength and right understanding. May love and harmony be with us all. Om. Peace, peace, peace. On a certain occasion, Vajrabrasa, hoping for divine favor, performed a rite which required that he should give away all his possessions. He was careful, however, to sacrifice only his cattle, and of these only such as were useless, the old, the barren, the blind, and the lame. Observing this miserliness, Nachiketa, his young son, whose heart had received the truth taught in the scriptures, thought to himself, surely a worshipper who dares bring such worthless gifts is doomed to utter darkness. Thus reflecting, he came to his father and cried, Father, I too belong to thee. To whom givest thou me? His father did not answer, but when Nachiketa asked the question again and yet again, he replied impatiently, Thee I give to death. Then Nachiketa thought to himself, of my father's many sons and disciples, I am indeed the best, or at least the middle rank, not the worst. But of what good am I to the king of death? Yet being determined to keep his father's word, he said, Father, do not repent thy vow. Consider how it has been with those who have gone before, and how it will be with those who now live. Like corn, a man ripens and falls to the ground. Like corn, he springs up again in his season. Having thus spoken, the boy journeyed to the house of death, but the god was not at home, and for 3 nights Nachiketa waited. When at length the king of death returned, he was met by his servants, who said to him, A Brahman, like a flame of fire, entered thy house as guest, and thou were not here. Therefore must a peace offering be made to him. With all accustomed rites, O king, thou must receive thy guest. For if a householder show not due hospitality to a Brahmin, he will lose what he most desires, the merits of his good deeds, his righteousness, his sons, and his cattle. Then the king of death approached Nachiketa and welcomed him with courteous words. O Brahman, he said, I salute thee. Thou art indeed a guest worthy of all reverence. Let, I pray thee, no harm befall me. 3 nights hast thou passed in my house, and hast not received my hospitality. Ask me therefore 3 boons, 1 for each night. O death, replied Nachiketa, so let it be. And as the first of these boons, I ask that my father be not anxious about me, that his anger be appeased, and that when you sendest me back to him, he recognize me and welcome me. By thy will, declared death, thy father shall recognize thee and love thee as heretofore. And seeing thee again alive, he shall be tranquil of mind, and he shall sleep in peace. Then said Nachiketa, in heaven there is no fear at all. Thou, O death, art not there, nor in that place does the thought of growing old make one tremble. There, free from hunger and from thirst, and far from the reach of sorrow, all rejoice and are glad. Thou knowest, O king, the fire sacrifice that leads to heaven. Teach me that sacrifice, for I am full of faith. This is my second wish. Whereupon, consenting, death taught the boy the fire sacrifice and all the rites and ceremonies attending it. Nachiketa repeated all that he had learned, and death, well pleased with him, said, I grant thee an extra boon. Henceforth shall this sacrifice be called the Nachiketa sacrifice after thy name. Choose now thy 3rd boon. And then Nachiketa considered within himself and said, when a man dies, there is doubt. Some say he is, others say he is not. Taught by thee, I would know the truth. This is my 3rd wish. Nay, replied death, Even the gods were once puzzled by this mystery. Subtle indeed is the truth regarding it, not easy to understand. Choose thou another boon, O Nachiketa. But Nachiketa would not be denied. Thou sayest, O Death, that even the gods were once puzzled by this mystery, and that it is not easy to understand. Surely there is no better teacher able to explain it than thou, and there is no other boon equal to this. To which, trying Nachiketa again, the god replied, ask for sons and grandsons who shall live 100 years. Ask for cattle, elephants, horses, gold. Choose for thyself a mighty kingdom. Or if you can't imagine anything better, ask for that. Not for sweet pleasures only, but for the power beyond all thought to taste their sweetness. Yea, verily, the supreme enjoyer will I make of thee, of every good thing. Celestial maidens, beautiful to behold, which indeed as were not meant for mortals, even these, together with their bright chariots and their musical instruments, will I give unto thee to serve thee. But for the secret of death, O Nachiketa, do not ask. But Nachiketa stood fast and said, these things endure only till the morrow, O destroyer of life, and the pleasures they give wear out the senses. Keep thou therefore horses and chariots. Keep dance and song for thyself. How shall he desire wealth, O Death, who once has seen thy face? No, only the boon that I have chosen, that only do I ask. Having found out the society of the imperishable and the immortal, as in knowing thee I have done, how shall I, subject to decay and death, and knowing well the vanity of the flesh, how shall I wish for long life? Tell me, O King, the supreme secret regarding which men doubt. No other boon will I ask. Whereupon the King of Death, well pleased at heart, began to teach Nachiketa the secret of immortality. King of Death, the good is one thing, the pleasant is another. These two, differing in their ends, both prompt to action. Blessed are they that choose the good. They that choose the pleasant miss the goal. Both the good and the pleasant present themselves to men. The wise, having examined both, distinguish the one from the other. The wise prefer the good to the pleasant. The foolish, driven by fleshly desires, prefer the pleasant to the good. Thou, O Nachiketa, having looked upon fleshly desires, delightful to the senses, hast renounced them all. Thou hast turned from the miry way wherein many a man wallows. Far from each other and leading to different ends are ignorance and knowledge. Thee, O Nachiketa, I regard as one who aspires after knowledge, for a multitude of pleasant objects were unable to tempt thee. Living in the abyss of ignorance, yet wise in their own conceit, deluded gods go round and round, the blind led by the blind. To the thoughtless youth, deceived by the vanity of earthly possessions, the path that leads to the eternal abode is not revealed. This world alone is real. There is no hereafter. Thinking thus, he falls again and again, birth after birth, into my jaws. To many it is not given to hear of the self. Many, though they hear of it, do not understand it. Wonderful is he who speaks of it, intelligent is he who learns of it, blessed is he who, taught by a good teacher, is able to understand it. The truth of the self cannot be fully understood when taught by an ignorant man, for opinions regarding it, not founded in knowledge, vary one from another. Subtler than the subtlest is this self, and beyond all logic. Taught by a teacher who knows the self and Brahman is one, a man leaves vain theory behind and attains to truth. Excuse me. The awakening which thou hast known does not come through the intellect, but rather in fullest measure from the lips of the wise. Beloved Nachiketa, blessed art thou, because thou seekest the eternal. Would that I had more pupils like thee. Well I know that earthly treasure lasts but till the morrow. For did not I myself, wishing to be king of death, make sacrifice with fire? But the sacrifice was a fleeting thing, performed with fleeting objects, and small is my reward, seeing that only for a moment will my reign endure. The goal of worldly desire, the glittering objects for which all men long, the celestial pleasures they hope to gain by religious rites, the most sought after of miraculous powers, all these were within thy grasp. But all these with firm resolve thou hast renounced. The ancient, effulgent being, the indwelling spirit, subtle, deep hidden in the lotus of the heart, is hard to know. But the wise man following the path of meditation knows him and is freed alike from pleasure and from pain. The man who has learned that the self is separate from the body, the senses, and the mind, and has fully known him, the soul of truth, the subtle principle, such a man verily attains to him and is exceedingly glad, because he has found the source and dwelling place of all felicity. Truly do I believe, O Nachiketa, that for thee the gates of joy stand open. Nachiketa, teach me, O king, I beseech thee, whatsoever thou knowest to be beyond right and wrong, beyond cause and effect, beyond past, present, and future. King of Death, of that goal which all the Vedas declare, which is implicit in all penances, and in pursuit of which men lead lives of continence and service, of that will I briefly speak. It is Om. This syllable is Brahman. This syllable is indeed supreme. He who knows it obtains his desire. It is the strongest support. It is the highest symbol. He who knows it is reverenced as a knower of Brahman. The self, whose symbol is Om, is the omniscient Lord. He is not born. He does not die. He is neither cause nor effect. This ancient one is unborn, eternal, imperishable. Though the body be destroyed, he is not killed. If the slayer thinks that he slays, if the slain think that he is slain, neither of them knows the truth. The self slays not, nor is slain. Smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest, this self forever dwells within the hearts of all. When a man is free from desire, his mind and senses purified, he beholds the glory of the self and is without sorrow. Though seated, he travels far. Though at rest, he moves all things. Who but the purest of the pure can realize this effulgent being, who is joy and who is beyond joy? Formless is he, though inhabiting form. In the midst of the fleeting, he abides forever. All-pervading and supreme is the self. The wise man, knowing him in his true nature, transcends all grief. The self is not known through study of the scriptures, nor through subtlety of the intellect, nor through much learning, but by him who longs for him is he known. Verily unto him does the self reveal his true being. By learning, a man cannot know him if he desists not from evil, if he control not his senses, if he quiet not his mind and practice not meditation. To him, Brahmins and Kshatriyas are but food, and death itself a condiment. Both the individual self and the universal self have entered the cave of the heart, the abode of the Most High. But the knowers of Brahman and the householders who perform the fire sacrifices see a difference between them as between sunshine and shadow. May we perform the Nachiketa sacrifice, which bridges the world of suffering. May we know the imperishable Brahman, who is fearless and who is the end and refuge of those who seek liberation. Know that the self is the rider and the body the chariot, that the intellect is the charioteer and the mind the reins. The senses, say the wise, are the horses. The roads they travel are the mazes of desire. The wise call the self the enjoyer, when he is united with the body, the senses, and the mind. When a man lacks discrimination and his mind is uncontrolled, his senses are unmanageable like the restive horses of a charioteer. But when a man has discrimination and his mind is controlled, his senses, like the well-broken horses of a charioteer, lightly obey the rein. He who lacks discrimination, whose mind is unsteady, and whose heart is impure, never reaches the goal, but is born again and again. But he who has discrimination, whose mind is steady, and whose heart is pure, reaches the goal, and having reached it is born no more. The man who has sound understanding for a charioteer, a controlled mind for reins, he it is that reaches the end of the journey, the supreme abode of Vishnu, the all-pervading. The senses derive from physical objects from the mind from intellect, intellect from ego from the unmanifested seed, the unmanifested seed from Brahman, the uncaused cause. Brahman is the end of the journey. Brahman is the supreme goal. This Brahman, the self, deep hidden in all beings, is not revealed to all, but to the seers pure in heart, concentrated in mind, to them is he revealed. The senses of the wise man obey his mind obeys his intellect, and his intellect obeys his ego, and his ego obeys the self. Arise, awake, approach the feet of the Master, and know that. Like the sharp edge of a razor, the sages say, is the path. Narrow it is and difficult to tread. Soundless, formless, intangible, undying, tasteless, odorless, eternal, without beginning, without end, immutable. Beyond nature is the self. Knowing him as such, one is freed from death. The narrator. The wise man, having heard and taught the eternal truth, revealed by the king of death, to whom Nachiketa is glorified in the heaven of Brahma. He who sings with devotion this supreme secret in the assembly of the Brahmins, or at the rites in memory of his fathers, is rewarded with rewards immeasurable. King of death. The self-existent made the senses turn outward. Accordingly, man looks towards what is without and sees not what is within. Rare is he who, longing for immortality, shuts his eyes to what is without and beholds the self. Fools follow the desires of the flesh and fall into the snare of all-encompassing death. But the wise, knowing the self is eternal, seek not the things that pass away. He through whom man sees, tastes, smells, hears, feels, and enjoys is the omniscient Lord. He verily is the self-immortal. Knowing him, one knows all things. He through whom man experienced the sleeping or waking states is the all-pervading self. Knowing him, one grieves no more. He who knows that the individual soul, enjoyer of the fruits of action, is the self, ever present within, Lord of time, past and future, casts out all fear. For this self is the immortal self. He who sees the firstborn, born of the mind of Brahma, born before the creation of waters, and sees him inhabiting the lotus of the heart, living among physical elements, sees Brahman indeed. For this firstborn is the immortal self, that being who is the power of all powers, and is born as such, who embodies himself in the elements, and in them exists, and who has entered the lotus of the heart, is the immortal self. Agni, the all-seeing, who lies hidden in fire sticks, like a child well guarded in the womb, who is worshipped day by awakened souls, and by those who offer oblations in sacrificial fire. He is the immortal self, that in which the sun rises and in which it sets, that which is the source of all the powers of nature and of the senses, that which nothing can transcend, that is the immortal self. What is within us is also without. What is without is also within. He who sees differences between what is within and what is without goes evermore from death to death. By the purified mind alone is the indivisible Brahman to be attained. Brahman alone, nothing else is. He who sees the manifold universe and not the one reality goes evermore from death to death. That being the size of a thumb dwells deep within the heart. He is the Lord of time, past, present, and future. Having attained him, one fears no more. He verily is the immortal self. That being the size of a thumb is like a flame without smoke. He is the Lord of time, past, present, and future. The same today and tomorrow. He verily is the immortal self. As rain fallen on a hill streams down its side, so runs he after many births, who sees manifoldness in the self. As pure water poured into pure water remains pure, so does the self remain pure, O Nachiketa, uniting with Brahman. To the birthless, the light of whose consciousness forever shines, belongs the city of 11 gates. He who meditates on the ruler of that city knows no more sorrow. He attains liberation, and for him there can no longer be birth or death. For the ruler of that city is the immortal self. The immortal self is the sun shining in the sky. He is the breeze blowing in space. He is the fire burning on the altar. He is the guest dwelling in the house. He is in all men. He is in the gods. He is in the ether. He is wherever there is truth. He is the fish that is born in water. He is the plant that grows in the soil. He is the river that gushes from the mountain. He, the changeless reality, the illimitable. He, the adorable one, seated in the heart, is the power that gives breath. Unto him all the senses do homage. What can remain when the dweller in this body leaves the outgrown shell, since he is verily the immortal self? Man does not live by breath alone, but by him in whom is the power of breath. And now, O Nachiketa, I will tell thee of the unseen, the eternal Brahman, and of what befalls the self after death. Of those ignorant of the self, Some enter into beings possessed of wombs. Others enter into plants according to their deeds and the growth of their intelligence. That which is awake in us, even while we sleep, shaping in dreams the objects of our desire, that indeed is pure. That is Brahman. And that verily is called the immortal. All the worlds have their being in that self, and none can transcend it. That is the self. As fire, though one takes the shape of every object which it consumes, so the self, though one takes the shape of every object in which it dwells. As air, though one takes the shape of every object which it enters, so the self, though one, takes the shape of every object in which it dwells. As the sun, revealer of all objects to the seer, is not harmed by the sinful eye, nor by the impurities of the objects it gazes on, so the one self, dwelling in all, is not touched by the evils of the world, for he transcends all. He is one, the Lord and innermost self of all. Of one form he makes of himself many forms. To him who sees the self revealed in his own heart belongs eternal bliss. To none else, to none else. Intelligence of the intelligent, eternal among the transient, he, though one, makes possible the desires of many. To him who sees the self revealed in his own heart belongs eternal peace. To none else, to none else. Nachiketa. How, O king, shall I find that blissful self, supreme, ineffable, who is attained by the wise? Does he shine by himself, or does he reflect another's light? King of Death. Him the sun does not illumine, nor the moon, nor the stars, nor the lightning, nor verily fires kindled upon earth. He is the one light that gives light to all. He, shining, everything shines. This universe is a tree, eternally existing, its root aloft, its branches spread below. The pure root of the tree is Brahman, the immortal, in whom the three worlds have their being, whom none can transcend, who is verily the self. The whole universe came forth from Brahman, moves in Brahman. Mighty and awful is he, like of a thunderbolt crashing loud through the heavens. For those who attain him, death has no terror. In fear of him, fire burns, the sun shines, the rain falls, the winds blow, and death kills. If a man fails to attain Brahman before he casts off his body, he must again put on a body in the world of created things. In one's own soul, Brahman is realized clearly, as if seen in a mirror. In the heaven of Brahma is Brahman realized clearly, as one distinguishes light from darkness. In the world of the fathers, he is beheld as in a dream. In the world of angels, he appears as if reflected in water. The senses have separate origin in their several objects. They may be active, as in the waking state, or they may be inactive, as in sleep. He who knows them to be distinct from the changeless self grieves no more. Above the senses is the mind. Above the mind is the intellect. Above the intellect is the ego. Above the ego is the unmanifested seed, the primal cause. And verily beyond the unmanifested seed is Brahman, the all-pervading spirit, the unconditioned, knowing whom one attains to freedom and achieves immortality. None beholds him with the eyes, for he is without visible form. Yet in the heart is he revealed through self-control and meditation. Those who know him become immortal. When all the senses are stilled, when the mind is at rest, when the intellect wavers not, that, say the wise, is the highest state. This calm of the senses and the mind has been defined as yoga. He who attains it is freed from delusion. If one not freed from delusion, this calm is uncertain, unreal. It comes and goes. Brahman words cannot reveal. Mind cannot reach. Eyes cannot see. How then, save through those who know him, can he be known? There are two selves, the apparent self and the real self. Of these, it is the real self, and he alone who must be felt as truly existing. To the man who has felt him as truly existing, he reveals his innermost nature. The mortal in whose heart desire is dead becomes immortal. The immortal in whose heart the knots of ignorance are untied, becomes immortal. These are the highest truths taught in the scriptures. Radiating from the lotus of the heart, there are 101 nerves. One of these ascends toward the 1,000-petal lotus in the brain. If, when a man comes to die, his vital force passes upward and out through this nerve, he attains immortality. But if his vital force passes out through another nerve, he goes to one or another plane of mortal existence and remains subject to birth and death. The Supreme Person, of the size of a thumb, the innermost self, dwells forever in the hearts of all beings. As one draws the pith from a reed, so must the aspirant after truth, with great reverence, separate the self from the body. Know the self to be pure and immortal, yea, pure and immortal. The narrator, Nachiketa, having heard from the god this knowledge, and the whole process of yoga, was freed from impurities and from death, and was united with Brahman. Thus will it be with another also if he knows the innermost self. Om, peace, peace, peace. And now we'd like to invite all of you to come down and have breakfast with us. Share Swamiji's breakfast.